Dear learners, welcome to LMTI interview preparation series. And in this series, right, we are going to discuss the frequently asked Java programs. The first program which I'm going to discuss today is like reverse string. So for example, let us take one string, okay, like a string name is equal to LMTI. I need to reverse this string. So reverse means the output should be like ITML. So how I can reverse the string? So whenever I need to reverse a string, I need to do some repetitive action in this particular line. And in Java, right, whenever we are planning to do some repetitive action, like we need the help of the loops. So let me use the for loop, and the syntax of for loop is like, let me use the for keyword and pose that, right, we need to initialize something. Let's say I'm initializing int I is equal to 0, and pose that, right, we need to set a condition. Okay, let's say I less than 0, and pose that, right, I'm going to set the increment operator, let it be like kind of an I plus plus, and let me create a block for this particular loop. Okay, so generally like this is the traditional syntax, and based upon the condition, right, the loop will work. And whenever the condition is true, it is going to step into the particular loop, and during each and every run, this increment operator, right, it is going to increase the value by 1. Okay, so this is the traditional for loop syntax. Now let us come back to the string. So in the string, right, we are having multiple character, and all the character will be always stored in an index order. So in a programming language, always the index will starts from 0. I can say 0, 1, 2, 3. In 0th index, the L will be stored, and the first index M will be stored, and similar to that, in the second index T, and the third index it will be I. Okay, and if you need to retrieve something, right, we need to retrieve based upon the index. But if I write the loop in this way, right, what happened? So generally we are initializing the value I is equal to 0, and pose that, right, in each and every run the increment operator will increase the value of I by plus 1, and it will move in a forward phase way. So means 0 and 0 plus 1 it will be 1, and 1 plus 1 it will be 2, and the output will be like again LMTI. And how we are going to reverse? So if we need to reverse, right, so we need to pass the index from 3. So I need to start the index from 3. So in order to calculate that, right, I'm just going to calculate the length of the string. So what is mean by length? So length is nothing but the number of values which is present inside this particular string. So here we are having 4 character, which means the length will be 4. And in order to calculate the length, right, we are having some inbuilt method. So let's say I can say name dot length. Okay, so with the help of the length method, I'm just calculating the length. And post that, right, I need to set the condition accordingly. So the loop should terminate so when it is equal to 0. So that is the reason I'm changing the condition I greater than or equal to 0. Okay, and this time, right, instead of the increment operator, I'm just going to add a decrement operator. This increment operator, right, it will increase the value of I by plus 1. But whereas the decrement operator, right, during each and every run, it will reduce the value by 1. Okay, why we are reducing the value? Because we are going to iterate in backwards. So basically length will be like kind of an 4, and during each and every time it should be like 3, 2, 1, 0. So that is the reason I'm just adding the increment operator. Okay, and we have already set the index. Okay, and how we are going to retrieve the value? So generally in a string, right, we need to retrieve each and every character, and we are going to retrieve the character based upon the index. So whenever we need to retrieve the character based upon the index, right, so there is a method in string called as an character. Okay, so what is the variable name of the string? Its name, I can say name dot caret. Okay, I'm using the caret method, and if you notice, this caret is a parameterized method. So whenever the method is parameterized, we should pass the input over here, right, and we need to pass the index. So generally we are initializing the index with the help of the variable I. So I can say caret of I, and let me just provide the statement in the sysout so that like we can visualize the output. Okay, I'm just adding inside the sysout statement, and the shortcut of adding the sysout is yes out. Now if I try to right click and run this program, it should print the output in reverse order, and the output should be like ITML. Now let us see the output. So what exactly it is printing? But I guess this time for sure it is going to throw the error. And let's see what kind of error it is throwing. It is throwing the exception called as an array index out of bound exception, and it is throwing the exception in the line number 10. Okay, and why this array index out of bound exception occurs? So because like we have initialized the length, so which means it will be like int I is equal to 4. Technically it will be like int I is equal to 4. As a first phase, it will check the condition 4 greater than or equal to 0. As the condition is true, it will step into the loop. And this time, right, in the caret method, right, it will pass the value of I as 4. And do we have fourth index in the string? So the maximum index is 3, right? So then when we try to access beyond the index, right, then it will throw the exception called as an string index out of bound exception. Okay, so in order to set the correct index, I'm just adding -1. Okay, so the 4 minus 1, it will be obviously like 3, right? Then we are initializing 3, and each and every run this decrement operator is going to decrease the value by 1. Then it will be like 210. Now if I try to right click and run this program, right, so it will print the string in a reverse way. Okay, but let's see the output how it is appearing. If you notice, it is printing in different line, but I need to print in the same line. Then what I can do, I can just remove the ln. Okay, and if I try to run the program once again, right, I could able to see the output as ITML. Okay, so this time it is working as expected, but this is not an accepted way. So we should not print in as this out. So generally, right, whenever we are generating a new output, we should store the output in a separate string. So that is the reason. Okay, let me create, okay, some one more string. Okay, let it be like kind of an new name is equal to, I'm just making the string as an empty. Okay, so this is an empty string because whatever the new value we are going to generate, right, I'm going to store the new value in this particular string. Okay, so now let me put this line over here. Okay, let me just remove the sysout statement. I can say new name is equal to something. Okay, and at the end, right, I'm just adding the semicolon, but it is throwing the error. So the reason is like, this time we are retrieving one particular character, but we are trying to store one character in a string. So that is the reason it is throwing an error. But if I add a plus symbol before it, it is not throwing the error. And if I just add a sysout statement outside the loop, and if I try to print this new name, right, it will populate the output. So how it happened? So what is mean by plus is equal to? Okay, so generally, like, plus is equal to indicates it is going to amend the character at the end of each index. So for example, in order to understand much better, let me add a breakpoint. Okay, so now the output is working fine, but let us add a breakpoint and let us visualize so that like we will get to know. So I'm just adding the breakpoint in the line number 11 and 12, and I'm just right clicking, and this time I'm running with the help of debug. Okay, so whenever we run with the debug, wherever the breakpoint is present, right, the execution will be passed and we can visualize what it is happening. Okay, so this time, okay, so it is passing the name as a LMTI, and it will calculate the length. The length will be 4, and 4 minus y, the 4 minus 1, it will be 3, and int I is equal to 3, and it will check for the condition. So 3 greater than or equal to 0. Yes, the condition is obviously true. Then if I resume the program, it will step into the particular loop, and the current value of I is 3, and when I say caret of 3, so which is what is present in the third index? I, right? Then obviously it will retrieve the I. And if you notice, I is getting stored in the new string, and during the next run, so when it retrieve the new character, it will automatically amend at the last index. So how it is amending? Because we have used the syntax called as an plus equal to. Okay, now if you notice, like, the decrement operator has decreased the value of I by 1. So now caret of 2, what is the caret of 2? T. Then T will be amount at the end of the string. So now the new name is IT, and similar way, like again the value of I will become 1. Okay, and this time it will retrieve the value which is present in the first sentence. And now if you notice, like it is retrieving the value m, and the m is amounting at the end of the string. Okay, in the similar way, like again in the 0th sentence it will retrieve the value, and the new string value is ITML. And now at this particular point, right, the value of I will become -1, because like during each and every run it will detect the value by 1. So 0 minus 1, it will be -1, and it will check for the condition. As the condition is false, it will terminate the loop, and it is printing the output. Okay, now if you notice the output, so it will be like IMTL. Okay, so this is how like we need to reverse the string. Okay, and similar to that, like we can look for the other programs in the upcoming videos. And if you have any feedback or suggestions, right, you can feel free to highlight them in the comment section. Thank you, and thank you all.